Hey guys, it's Kat and I am back today to start my new eyeshadow palette declutter series. Now I was going to call this Project Eyemageddon, which is similar to my lip declutter series, which is called Project Apocalypse. But because that one is still going, and based on how I've categorized the rest of my lip collection, that will probably be going for another 4 or 5 months, I thought I can't have two projects that sound the same. So when I did mention the idea of this project, probably the biggest suggestion was Project Eyemageddon. So that's what I'm calling it, Project Eyemageddon. So essentially what I'm going to be doing this year is trying different eyeshadow palettes, some for just like a day or two, others for maybe a whole week if I sort of need to use it for that long to figure out how I feel about it. And then just based on my gut reaction, I'm going to keep it or get rid of it. Now, I've got a lot. I should actually get the box and I'll show you. Can we see the big box of eyeshadow palettes here? Like it's full. Big box of eyeshadow palettes. So I'm now keeping a giant box of eyeshadow palettes under my desk. And what I sort of do is I've been pulling out some groupings and I've been putting them in a drawer. So this month I decided to focus on it's hard to hold them all, my Urban Decay Naked palettes, and I wanted to try them all and decide which ones I want to keep and which ones I'm going to get rid of. And I'm essentially going to just do that throughout the whole year. Now, I'm not going to count all my eyeshadow palettes. I'm not going to feature all my eyeshadow palettes. If there's some that I'm 100% sure that I'm going to keep, I might not even bother putting it in here. And then along the way, if I don't even want to try something, I'm just going to declutter it off camera. So this series is mainly for the palettes that I want to do a last minute test on to decide, do I want to keep it or do I not need it at all? Now I have had a few people recently ask if I would do a makeup inventory. And my answer was hell no. Like hell would freeze over before I do a makeup inventory for a couple of reasons. One, does not interest me. I find having to like categorize, write down, keep track of, look at numbers of how many makeup products I have, I actually find that quite stressful. I find that quite like overwhelming. And I want to find makeup enjoyable. It's a hobby of mine. It's something I enjoy doing. So I don't want it to be this like looming numbers kind of thing. So I won't be doing it for that reason. Also, I just don't have the time to actually sit down, pull out every single item of your makeup and write down the names of it in a spreadsheet. That will take a couple of days, which I do not have, and I'll never have the time to maintain it. So there is going to be no makeup inventory coming from me, and I'm not even going to count my palettes. All I'm going to do is maybe at the end keep tally of how many I tried and how many I got rid of. But my goal is that I want to have sort of like, I've allocated 2 drawers in my desk for eyeshadow palettes, and that's all I want. So I'm going to try to minimize my collection to fit those drawers. And if there's anything that doesn't fit, I've got to make some hard decisions on what to get rid of. Another disclaimer I want to make about this series is it's not going to be a full-on like in-depth review on each palette. Like I'm not going to be like, I tried every single shade and this formula performs a little bit better than that formula. It's not going to be like that. I have done reviews on the vast majority of these products. So if you want to see like in-depth reviews, especially like 1 week or 1 month reviews, if I've done a review on the palette, I will link the review in the description box so you can see a more in-depth one. It's probably from years and years and years ago, but chances are my opinion hasn't changed too much. The whole point of this is me just trying it in my everyday life and going, is this something that I'm going to reach for tomorrow? Is this something I want in my collection? Yes or no? And that's what it's about. So it's more about gut vibe rather than, is this a good palette? Yes or no? Because I've kept these because these are all decent palettes. But do I need them all? That's the question. All right, so I've got 8 Naked palettes here. The most recent ones I've got are the Naked Heat, Naked Gold, and Naked Cherry. I didn't get any beyond that. And I was at some point sort of collecting these because they sort of brought me nostalgia and I was quite excited for them. And then they sort of just got out of hand and there was like the purple one and the sort of half green mint one with the browns and the like 2000s collection. And I just thought, look, I don't need to collect these anymore. All right, let's start with the original and, in my opinion, probably the best that has been discontinued. A lot of these first rounds, so like Naked 2, I think Naked 3, and the Naked Smoky, which is technically like the Naked 4, I think these have all been discontinued. So this is that felt packaging that some people like, some people hate. I actually feel like it holds up fairly well. I don't know what it is, but it is what it is. It's quite lightweight, it's easy, and it's fine. It's got a little piddly shitty mirror that doesn't do anything. And these are the colors in here. Now this is a predominantly shimmery palette. There's two mattes, Naked and Buck. Unfortunately, my kid gouged his finger in Buck, but it is what it is. And the rest are just, yeah, standard shimmer formula, and you go through sort of like, look, these are probably cooler toned nudes here, then there's some warmer toned nudes, they're like goldy bronze shades, some pinky purple shades, and some grey, gunmetal, really bluey grey shades. I'm just gonna say, and this is gonna be probably controversial in this day and age, I really love this palette. Of course, there's downsides to it. It needs more mattes. It's just sort of pretty basic, but I love the formula and I love the looks it creates. So this month I've had a surprising amount of compliments on my subtle eyeshadow looks, and it's usually using this palette. So I like to use a couple of, there's some shades that stand out as being like a one and done eyeshadow shade for me. So I really like Sidecar. It's quite sparkly. There's a bit of sparkle fallout, but it's not that big a deal. I really like Half Baked as a nice sort of subtle gold. I really love Smog as a bronze look. And if you want something a little bit more pink toned, Toasted's really nice. So I really like those as like just a one and done. You know, put it on with like a flat brush and then blend it out with just a fluffy brush, and it's a one and done eyeshadow look, and the formula is really nice and easy to apply. And then of course you can go in with one of the mattes and just sort of add a little bit of crease definition if you want to. So I really like this for just a basic, fast makeup day. Is the quality amazing? Look, it's not amazing, but it's not bad. I actually think they probably started at the peak, and then as the palettes have gone on, the quality has gotten a little bit worse. It might be because back in the day when they created this, it was an indie brand and then it was owned by L'Oreal. So maybe they cheapened out on the formulation. I'm not too sure, but I really like the effects that it gives. And yeah, could there be improvements? Absolutely. But I keep coming back to this because it's such a user-friendly palette. Like the shimmers, they go on, you can see the color, you can see the shine, you can see which shade you use. They're not so similar that they look repetitive, but at the same time, they're not so bold that you feel like you're stepping out in too much makeup. I find that's happening more and more these days, where you get these really rich, intense, pigmented eyeshadows, which look great in swatches and look really impressive on Instagram. But in reality, it can look like you're just wearing a lot of makeup. And I don't want to look like I'm wearing sort of like a bold smoky eye on a daily basis. It's just not my jam. So I love the original Naked, and it's a real shame that they got rid of it. I understand why they did, because it is so basic, and if you wanted it, you already owned it. So I understand why they got rid of it, but I think it's a great palette. I'm going to then talk about the palette that replaced it. This is the Naked Reloaded. Now I do want to say, look, I feel like it's got this more silky material, and I feel like they did the material packaging to pay tribute to the original. I just don't feel like this palette is as good. I don't like that they've got the 3 different pan sizes. They've got the larger pan, the medium, and then the standard size. And the reason I don't like that is because I don't feel like I reach for the larger pans any more than the middle pans. So it's a bit of a like, it's a okay concept. So if you're going to use these outer shades the most, yeah, you want the most of them, but I don't use the outer shades the most. So I don't feel like it's that necessary. Some of these shades I feel are quite dupeable in some of their other palettes, which is fine because this is sort of like a condensed version. If you don't want to buy 3 other palettes to make this sort of color story, then, you know, here it is. In terms of formula, I don't think it's as good as the first one. I feel like the Naked one is a more of a buttery, sort of easy to apply formula. This does have different textures, so it's not that standard shimmer. There is some that have like sparkle in them. This Angel Fire is more like an iridescent, no, not iridescent. It's like a sparkle with a like no real base to it. So it's more just like, I don't know, this soft pink shimmer, which could be a topper shade, but it looks a little bit chunky. It doesn't apply smoothly, so it's a bit strange. I like this color story, but I don't think I need a big palette to get this color story. And that's sort of the vibe I get with a lot of Naked palettes, except for maybe the Naked one that does have quite a few color stories in it. So you can see, again, you got the neutral, you got the warm, you've got the pink, you got the gray. Yes, I like the browns. I like some of the warm tones. I did wear this and quite enjoy the looks, but I feel like I can get these effects from like a nice little Visia palette that maybe has like 6 shades. Like I don't feel like I need this. And the chunky sort of glitter formula, I find it's a bit of a battle to work with. So I don't think I'm gonna keep this one, even though I don't mind the color story. Onto the Naked 2, and this is another one that is sadly discontinued. It was their first little tin packaging, and it came with the double-ended brush, which was good. This one is so much more cool toned than the Naked one, and definitely the Naked Reloaded. I quite like these cool tone shades though. I think some of them are really beautiful, and again, there's some really nice one and done shades in here. Chopper is a beautiful sort of like, it's like a pinky shade with a little bit of mauviness to it. I really like Suspect. I really like Verb. I really like YDK. I feel like they're really nice, cooler toned, one and done eyeshadows. One limitation with this palette, of course, it's got the same sort of shimmer formula that the Naked one has, which I quite like, so I don't hate that. But it's only got 3 mattes. Now, it's got one sort of cream matte, which I do like because for my skin tone, it's a very versatile shade. If I sort of over apply eyeshadow, I can sort of blend it out with this shade and sort of tone it down. I really like that. I can set my base with it if I want to. It's got this sort of purpley gray toned transition color, and then it's also got a black. Now, I think that's really suitable for this palette, but I would have loved to have seen a slightly warmer tone, like a more caramel transition color, because some of these shades here, they just turn too purple when you introduce the matte, but I do think it works very nicely with the Naked one that does have those more browny caramel shades. So I like this. I think it's a really nice cool tone palette, and I think together with these, I think it's a pretty good range of neutral, slightly warm, and mainly cool tone looks that I really dig these days. So I am going to keep those. Then came the Naked 3, which is where I think they really went into the sort of themed palettes. So this one is very rosy colored, and I like some of the shades in here, but it is so one note. If I could pull out a couple of these shades and just make like a quad using them, I would love to, because I really love the shade Liar and I really love the shade Mugshot, and then mixed with something like Lunar, I think it's such a beautiful purpley taupe effect on the eye. I think it's really, really gorgeous. Trick is also a pretty shade. It's almost like a rose gold, but a little bit of like a cooler tone vibe to it. And it is a more chunky glitter topper. But if you do apply this like on a sticky base or something, it does give a really pretty effect, and it really complements the purpley shades around it. So I like the tones of this palette, but again, I feel like I can replicate this with a quad. And these are the tones I don't wear too often. I actually do prefer more of your traditional taupes, not so much the purpley taupe. So I'm going to get rid of this, but it was a hard decision to make. Something I also wrote in my notes was that the quality of this isn't anywhere near the quality of the Naked one. It's not as sort of smooth and easy to apply, and I feel like the effects that you see in the pan here are quite hard to achieve. I think they're a bit firmer. They're a little bit more satin. If you want to have a nice shine to the lid, you don't really get it from this palette. This is a little bit just lackluster in the texture, so it's not as enjoyable and easy to use. The Naked one is almost like you can do your eyeshadow in 30 seconds, like done, whereas this one, there's a little bit more effort put in. So I don't love this one. I'm going to get rid of this one. One that I was really torn on is the Naked Smoky. I love the Naked Smoky in theory. So this is a smoky eye palette, and I think it's a really smart smoky eye palette. If you love rocking a smoky eye, this will probably be your jam. You've got a lot of silvery blue tones. Again, we've seen a couple of these in the Naked one, so I feel like it's a little bit repetitive. You have some beautiful cool tone browns. This palette has brought out more mattes, so there's 4 mattes there and the rest are shimmers, but again, there's slightly different textures. I feel like Some of these grays are more satin, whereas some of these lighter ones are more of that traditional shimmer. And you have some more champagne gold shades, brown. So if you want to do a gray tone smoky eye, you've got the option here. If you want a more purple toned, you can sort of create it. And if you want a more brown toned, you can create it as well. So this is a really smart smoky eye palette. I do love the effects that this gives. But one thing I learned from trying this is I rarely do a smoky eye. So I like this palette, I respect this palette, but I'm not going to keep it. I only used it twice this month, whereas all the other palettes that I've spoken about before this, I used 3 times and I could keep using them. Whereas this one I stopped at 2 because I pretty much, all I wanted to do was use these shades here and some of these, like this matte here. So I felt like that was not using this palette to its full potential, but admittedly I don't like really silvery eyeshadows, and I don't like dark smoky looks. It's very, very rare that I'll wear them. So even though I would love to keep this just for collector's sake and because I appreciate the palette, I don't think that's enough. I need to actually want to use the palettes in my collection, so this is going to go. All right, I think the next one that was released was the Naked Heat. I'm sort of losing track because I feel like in the last couple of years they've just been like releasing so many of them that it does get a bit confusing of when they were released. But I think the Naked Heat was next, and this one was a very red sort of warm toned palette. Now I really like this palette, even though I have criticisms about it, which are the main criticisms is that whenever you reach for any shade in here, it creates the same look on the eye because there is so many redundant shades. Unless you create just the lightest of light shade or just use these two, if you delve into any of these shades, they start to look the same because there are 3 predominant shimmers in here and a few predominant mattes that all give a very similar effect on the eye. I did try to use this a few times this month and I did use all of these shades separately, but I'm like, can you tell? Can you tell? They all look the same. So I'm going to swatch them and they, again, have slight nuances in difference, but they all just look like a sort of cranberry, warm cranberry shimmer shade. They're so, so similar. These 2 caramel shades are also virtually identical. And then when we have these sort of matte red shades, again, these, if you use them in any look, they're gonna look the same. So I understand that they stuck to that sort of fire heat vibe, but come on, do you need half the palette to look like just a shimmer and a matte version of the same shade? Like there's 6 shades here. That's ridiculous. So even though I like this, like I like the effect that it gives, like it works well and the red tones are really pretty. I had to really step back and look at the photos that I took of me wearing this, and I realized these tones make me look really washed out and almost a bit sickly. So I don't think these tones suit my complexion on a daily basis. And there was part of me that was trying to convince myself to keep this because I do, like if you look close in, like you're doing your eyeshadow, you're like, that's a pretty look. I like the effect. It works with brown eyes. I think it's gorgeous. But when I step back, I'm like, I look like a corpse. It just didn't really suit me. And again, whenever I reached for a different shade, I was like, this looks like the same thing I created yesterday with another shade. So for me, I think I could easily replace this whole palette by buying a warm cranberry single shimmer eyeshadow and then putting any warm shade in the crease and you get the same effect. So for me, I'm getting rid of it, but I do like it as a warm toned red palette. It's just super redundant. Next is the Naked Cherry, and Beauty News was set this in PR and I did try it a couple of times and I really dislike this palette. This is my least favorite palette, or yeah, my least used palette out of the bunch, and this is just not my color story whatsoever, to the point that I used this once this month and I was like, it's going. This is way too pink. I understand cherry tones, but I think of cherry and I think of like rich reds, maybe not like fire reds like the Naked Heat, but maybe more like burgundy, beautiful shades. And yes, you've got sort of one there, but this is so pink and I really dislike pink. I don't mind it as a color, like it's a fine color, like I'd wear a pink jumper or wear a bright pink lip, but these sort of tones of pink, again, make me look very unwell. It's just not flattering and I I do not want to ever reach for this again. So this is going. I do also want to mention that with these, I'm going to give these away to people I know. So if anyone's interested in these that I know, I will happily pass these on. Some of these, again, are barely used. Some of them are fairly new. The really old ones, I think I'll just throw away, but I will try my hardest to pass these on to a new person that will love and appreciate them, because they are nice eyeshadows. They're just not for me. All right, the last one I'm going to talk about is the Naked Gold, and man, using this had made me realize how much I love this palette. I think in the last month, I think I took photos of 3 looks, I think it was. Yeah, I think I took photos of 3 looks, but I've used it 4 times, and I think today is the 5th time. I just love this palette, and I'm glad I pulled it out and got to like shop my stash, because I rediscovered how much I love this. So again, similar to the last couple of palettes, this is a 1-note palette. There are a lot of honey tones, there are a lot of gold tones. Yes, it can be argued that this is also very redundant, but I feel like there's least differences with the tones. They do look quite similar, like these two look quite similar, but when you do apply them, you can see the difference on the eye, which is what I like about this. But ultimately, I just think these sort of mustardy gold tones suit me a lot more. I'm wearing it today. I love it. I'm wearing these 2 shades. So this shade here is amber, and it's the most beautiful, like orangey, rich amber shade. Like it's not your traditional gold or your traditional bronze. It's got this sort of fiery color to it, which is really beautiful. I would say the 2 mattes either side it are very, very similar. So you didn't need both of those there, but it is what it is. Then you have like more traditional gold. You have more of this yellowy, almost chartreuse gold, which is a lot more vibrant and brighter. I actually have that in my inner corner. And even though it's not a shade that I like wearing all over the lid, I have worn it all over the lid this month. But one thing I do like about it is because the tone is different and it's a lot more vibrant. If you do pair it with any other shade, it does stand out as being quite bright. So you can use it as like a highlight shade with this shade, for example, which is what I did today. And it stands out and it sort of brightens the inner corner. Which is nice. I also really like this patch here, which is more warm browns. So you've got the gold shades, the honey shades, and then you have the more dark sort of caramel shades, which I think are really pretty. And the formula is quite nice. I don't think it's as good as the Naked one, but I do think it's quite wearable. I enjoy it, and using this again has just made me realize how much I appreciate this color story and how much I want to reach for it more and more. Also, this dark brown, I like having this matte here because for me anyway, like I've got in my outer corner today. I also set my liner, sort of blended out my liner with it, and I also did my brows with it, which is really handy. So I find that this is a really good palette for me, so I'm definitely keeping it. And I just thought I'd show you my eye look close up. So we've got that amber shade all over the lid, and I just blended it out with one of the mattes that was next to it. Did the same thing on the lower lash line. That dark matte brown I just put in the outer corner a little bit, and that chartreusey yellow right in the corner. So you can see that that stands out as being a highlighter shade compared to the lid shade because it is a different tone. It's got more green to it. I do remember in my review of this, when I did a full review on it when it first came out, I did mention that I would love to have seen them go into more greens, so more sort of grungy greens. I would love to see that. So I'd love to see a mix of the honey shades with like olive greens. I think that would be beautiful. Or even take some of the reds from the Naked Heat and sort of pair these shades with some red shades and some brown shades. I don't feel like they need to do a whole palette per color story. I feel like mixing them into this sort of like awesome warm tone palette would have been a smarter idea. So, and made it more versatile and probably more longer lasting in the industry. So yeah, there was room for more versatility here, but I still really like this palette. So at the end of month 1, I'm getting rid of 5 palettes and I'm keeping 3. I will do a tally and I'll probably keep updating it every month with what I'm keeping, what I'm getting rid of, but I'm happy with this split. I really feel like these 3 palettes together and mixed together work really well. And I think they sort of sum up my makeup preferences, whereas these are just excess bulk that I really don't need. So I'm really happy keeping these, and I'm also happy to keep 1 and 2 for now because these are discontinued, and I still feel like when I look at the Naked palette range, these are some of the strongest ones with the better formula. So it would be a shame to get rid of these at the moment anyway. But yeah, these three I think are great everyday palettes. You get warm gold tones, you get just neutral variety of nudes, and more cool tones. I can use them all year round. So this is my jam. This can go. All right, so that was my first month in my project Eyemageddon or Eyemageddon. I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know what sort of themed months you'd love to see in the upcoming videos. I'm not going to theme every month. I just thought at the start, while I have sort of some collections that are fairly whole, like Anastasia Beverly Hills, I've got quite a few palettes. Pat McGrath, I've got a few palettes. Natasha Denona, I've got a few palettes. So I might do sort of brand exclusive or range exclusive months. So just to get through the palettes a bit faster and sort of organize them a bit better, I might group them for the first few months, but there also might be months where I'm just picking whatever I feel like using and seeing where I go. I might use mini palettes or quads or large palettes, who knows? But that's sort of the vibe of this series. Again, it's not a really in-depth review of all these palettes. It's just my gut reaction, trying things again before I decide to either keep it or get rid of it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.